and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Kate Murray, joined in the studio by Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol, and we'll be starting tonight with the Manchester City rumours of players who could be leaving, namely Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus and Bernardo Silva. These names consistently coming up this summer, with a move away from the club as we now welcome in Nedum Onuoha to talk a little bit more about this. And Nedum, it's been a little while since we've seen you, so there's a few things we want to bring up with you. But I want to start with Raheem Sterling. Word is right now that he'd be interested in a move to Chelsea after the new owner has made him a top transfer target for the club. How do you feel about him leaving Man City potentially?
I think it'll be a shame, but I understand it. I think in years gone by, he's been such an important player for the club, whereas you'd argue the last 2 seasons, sometimes when you see him out there, some people say, well, shouldn't someone else be playing instead of him? And I think that must be a tough position for him to be in. And I think when you look at the contract that he's got, how he's got 1 year left, I think for City, if there's a player that wants to go and play more football elsewhere, then I guess they have to weigh up that sort of decision. And it's, like I say, it is a shame because I think he scored over 100 goals for City. And when Pep Guardiola was there, when he first came in, a lot of people thought, well, there's no way Sterling's going to fit into his plans, but he's been a huge part of the success that they've had over recent years. So I get it. There's I think some people from the blue side anyway, and sort of football fans in general, they sort of take offence when they hear somebody say they want to leave their club. But the fact is, for those people, they just want to play more football. And for the stats we'll see with Raheem, I think it's 47 games last season. But I don't think all of those were starts. And at times, especially for City, for Liverpool, for Chelsea, as the big games come, if you're somebody that's sitting on the bench, you can't help but feel like maybe you're undervalued. So it would be a shame to see him leave, but given the fact that Alvarez is coming in, Haaland is coming as well, maybe he understands that sort of the opportunities which he would really want and feel he deserves on a week-to-week basis aren't going to be there. And if Chelsea are offering that to him, then I guess you have to consider it.
Where do you stand on
Well, I'm intrigued by the way you set this up and the way I read the email from our producer. And yeah, I did actually read this one today. It was a long day at home. I know. Time's on my side.
It's not the only
but,
thing
I was intrigued to say that the new owner, Todd Boehly, wants to make Raheem Sterling his top transfer target. Thomas Tuchel? No? I mean, I would imagine Todd Boehly knows pretty much diddly squat about players, about this sport at the elite level. So what's the Todd Boehly wants to make? I mean, the decisions, financial decisions, checks to be written, balancing books, that's ownership. But I'm not quite sure about the wording of this. I mean, is this Thomas Tuchel? Does he want the player? Did Thomas Tuchel want Romelu Lukaku? That would be more intriguing to me. As I said on yesterday's show, at the moment, Raheem Sterling would overload Chelsea with a lot of these players. Hudson-Odoi, Hakim Ziyech, Mason Mount, Timo Werner plays in a wider position, Christian Pulisic, who there's a constant gripe this side of the pond anyway about game time for him. So, I don't know. I mean, he's a good player. Of course he's a good player. I think maybe he wants to be the big fish in a slightly smaller pond at the moment, and I mean that not as Chelsea a smaller club. I mean the fact that City and Liverpool are ahead of them and it's harder to get in their teams. Maybe that's what he wants. But I'm slightly concerned that the wording is the owner wants to make him. The owner should just be signing the cheques and letting the football decisions. Or go and look at Man United and follow their way of doing it and see what a mess there is. Let the football people, if you trust them, make the decisions. And I would like to think that's what Chelsea are doing. And it's not the owner going, oh, there's a player from City. Oh, he's good. Yeah, I've seen him on TV. Yeah, let's get him. Because that's a dangerous road to go down.
Would he be a big fish at Chelsea, Raheem Sterling?
I think if he goes there, he starts over all the names that Craig put out there. Pulisic and Ziyech, pretty much all of those.
Havertz, I forgot
all of them. Apart from Havertz, every other one, I don't think Tuchel trusts him. Everybody says he likes Werner. Well, I'll tell you what, you look at how many times he starts, it doesn't seem to me that he's really enamoured with him. But he doesn't have any choice. The only person other than Havertz is Mason Mount. And Sterling, if he goes to Chelsea right now, whether it's Tuchel or Todd Boehly or whoever, absolutely, in my opinion, would play more games. And this can only be about having more time on the field. Because you don't go from City to Chelsea, a team who are way, way off you, or way off the pace, challenging for the Premier League or the Champions League, unless that's what it's all about. And I think that's what it is about. And I think it's a good move for Chelsea. Again, regardless of whose decision. Because for me, Sterling starts above every other one of them.
Would you agree with that, Nedum?
I suppose in some ways I would have to, yeah. I think Sterling, as he arrives in there, he arrives as a winner, as a champion, you know, barring the Champions League as such, I believe. Like, he's very comfortable in the Premier League. He knows how to win that. He knows how to win the Cups. He knows the standard in terms of having to win every single game. But ultimately, like, I understand what Craig's saying about, is it an ownership thing? Is it a club thing? But then I think for Raheem to talk about his side, I think the stat came up then he started 32 games. And, you know, that feels like a lot. But when your team's playing 60 games in a season, all of a sudden you realise, like, are you really that important if you only start half the games? So I think if he does go there, based on, say, the money they'd be bringing in, the fact that they're bringing in with experience and pedigree to try and get them to be winning and contending more in the league and alike, I think he would start. I think some of the players that are there, when you're looking at Werners, you're looking at Ziyech's and so on, like, at times they can be very good, but maybe there's a level of consistency which is missing within that. And I think when you looked at the stats there for Sterling, you know, people argue he's had 2 bad seasons over the last 2 seasons, but he's ended up scoring over 30 goals combined if you include both seasons. So I get it. I think if he went there, he would start. I'd be very surprised if he went there and he was just sitting on the bench, because this is essentially a marquee signing for Chelsea Football Club. So what would be the use in bringing him down there if you didn't think he was going to be essentially a starter for your club?
And what's also the point of bringing him down there when you're sitting with probably 6 players, even though he's probably the best of them, when you have a manager who's under pressure, you have a new ownership, and excuse me if I've missed something here, but there's a 36 or 7-year-old at the back, going to be pretty much on his own. They've sold Tomori to Milan. He's gone, had a great season. They've lost Christensen. They've lost Rudiger, who was the best player. I mean, is Todd Bowley missing something here? I think Chelsea fans would be looking at it going, oh yeah, he could do a job for us. And by the way, it'll not be as easy to get 17 goals and 8 assists in the Chelsea team as it was in the Man City team, for obvious reasons. But I think from a management perspective, holy smokes. I mean, you've got a budget to bring a player in. That means you have to move players because there's so many of them. And you've got a back line that's been decimated. On top of that, you've got 2 keepers, one who's brilliant, the other one who's been a great stand-in, but he was £75 million. And on top of that, you've got the 100 million Lukaku getting shoveled back for a loan fee. I mean, this is not about appeasing fans for new ownership. It's about making the right decisions. And the bulk of the budget, in my opinion, has to go towards midfield and particularly defence. And then, yes, they need a striker. I give you that. Yes, they need an out striker. They do. They're not going to win it with Sterling coming in and saying, oh yeah, you know, we can Sterling, Havertz, Werner, we can rotate. No, it's not going to happen. These players are not as good as the Liverpool boys or the City boys. So they do need a striker that's going to bring them goals. City and Liverpool have bought that striker, but they need centre-halves.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.